What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you another very powerful and very cool Blue Eyes variant. Today it is the turn of Blue Eyes Buster Blader. Very anime specific, love it. So, what this version of the deck does is it gives you an incredibly powerful go first option. The fact of the matter is that you can use the Buster Whelp to get you into your Blue Eyes Link 1, which can then, ideally, if you've opened up something like a Sage or a Maiden, work your way into the Blue Eyes combo. A better route of the play would be by starting off with your Sage with Eyes of Blue, and I'll show you that combo at the end of the video so you have an idea of how it goes from one route to the other. I've also tried to keep budget in mind when putting this deck together, so as a disclaimer, there is no Primites and there is no Crimson Dragon. However, if you wanted to increase the stealing and the power of this deck, you would definitely be considering something like a Crimson Dragon, as it just adds you that little bit more consistency and that general strength to the board. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. Diving headfirst into the profile, we are starting off with two Blue Eyes White Dragons. So obviously in this version, you only really need two. You don't need Primite Raw, you don't need Primite Lordy Lord, so you're not going to be spawning out many Blue Eyes. You're also not going to be utilizing something like Dictator of D, so again, two is more than enough. Skipping ahead a little bit here as well, we are also playing one original Buster Blader. Of course, you can play Buster Blader the Destruction Swordsman, might be a little bit better as it does also count as a Destruction Sword, but I couldn't refuse the opportunity to be able to play the Kagasuchi arts all together. So being able to play the two Blue Eyes and the Buster Blader, it just felt right, to be honest. But I'll come back to the Buster Blader a little bit later on. I just wanted to show you all of them together. Carrying on with the rest of the Blue Eyes cards, so obviously for the monster, we are playing Jet Dragon. Like, the recur ability of this card is absolutely insane. Shout out to Leo, who really gave me an absolute brain-numbing time when we were playing the Structure Deck event, because we just kept getting our own Jet Dragons and kept looping them back. It was just, yeah, painful. And then, of course, you've got triple Sage with Eyes of Blue, triple Maiden. Like, what a great addition this card is. And then one Master. I still like the Master, arguably so in this particular version. You can choose not to play it because you are playing the Buster Whelp, but then I feel if you're not going to go all out on the Buster Whelps, as they are like £15 a copy right now, you'd probably go with a Master with Eyes of Blue. Don't worry about that £15 a copy, don't let it scare you. I'll talk you through some alternative options that you can use to still be able to play this route of the deck, don't worry. And then of course, triple Wishes for Eyes of Blue, followed up by one Raw, one Mausoleum, Majesty, and True Light. Now, I still like playing Majesty. Obviously, with only playing two Blue Eyes, you're only ever going to pop two cards, but I still really do like it. I think it's a really kind of cool defensive option. Again, I completely understand if you want to take it out. There are some other consistency cards that I'll talk you through in a second that you might want to go, all right, well, I don't really want Majesty. I'd rather play those. So for the Buster Blader cards, we are playing triple Buster Whelp Destruction Sword. Now, this is the most expensive addition to the main deck for the pure fact that it's only ever had one print in Breakers of Shadow, and that was years ago. Trust me, that was the first set that I actually invested heavily in back in the day. So this card is currently sitting at about £15 a copy. Now, arguably, you can cut this down and only play it at one, because of the fact that Sage can search it out and so can Wishes. The reason you max out on it is because of the fact that if you do hard open it, it means that you can eat a hand trap on Wishes or eat a hand trap on Sage and still get your plays going. For some of the alternative options to kind of cut this down and rely less on it, you can consider something like a Pure Rizzy map. I'm not the biggest fan of this particular card because it has to be done at the start of the main phase and you lose half your life points. But of course, you can also consider as a very cool option is something like Small World. The reason Small World is so good is because in this version, what you could do is you can reveal your Buster Whelp, your Maiden, your Sage, or even your Master as your one from hand. So you can get from any of these that you've opened up in multiples. And then what you do is you show your Nibiru in the middle, and then you can get to any of these on the other side. Because the only thing that they share in common is the fact that they're all lights. So you'd go, I reveal a light here, a light in the deck, and then get another light. The issue is you can't go from these to like another one in the middle because they'll all be level 1s, they'll all be lights, so that will clash. But if you did want to play Small World instead of two more copies of the Buster Whelp, you could do this, or of course you can play Kaijus. You can also work your way from an Effect Veiler to a starter, or a starter to an Effect Veiler as well if you wanted to. So it gives you a couple of options to consider. I think it's a really kind of cool option. The fact that you could utilize Nib as the bridge, I think is really funny. So yeah, kind of something to consider. The last of the Buster Blader cards, we do play the one Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. This is your extra deck lock against your opponent, which is disgusting. I'm pretty sure this card was banned. I'm pretty sure there was a time that this card was banned, which is mental. Or it might have just been Union Hanger that they banned. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but yeah, this card was nuts. And then, of course, we've got the one Buster Blader. Like I said, you can play the Destruction Swordsman version if you want to. I feel that getting hold of a normal Buster Blader will be a lot cheaper and a lot easier. And like I said, I couldn't pass up the chance of putting the artwork together. Then the last two cards we are playing is the one Destruction Sword of Memories and the one Prologue. Now the biggest risk you play is that Prologue requires you to send a Destruction Sword card and a Buster Blader monster from your deck to the grave. So if you do hard open up this card, that sucks a little bit. But that being said, you get to search this off of the back of your Buster Whelp. So your Buster Whelp gets you to set this. This then sends a Destruction Sword card and a Buster Blader monster from the deck to the grave. So you either send a Destruction Sword of Memory or you send the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. So you're going for your lock. But you ideally want to be sending this first. But if you hard open this or have this as discard fodder, you still have ways to make it work. And this lets you special summon out a Buster Dragon from the extra deck or graveyard, but you destroy it during the end phase of the next turn. And then this is the card you're going to send to the graveyard. You banish it from the graveyard to fusion summon a Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer and Swordsman from the extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from the graveyard, which is a Buster Blader and any Dragon monster. So the idea is that when you get the root of this, your 1 card combo off the back of your Buster Whelp, well, technically a 1.5 because you do need an additional monster on the board to get into your Link 2, you'd be able to go this into this, and then you go into the Link 2, which will let you set and send this or this. Well, that's going to get you your extra deck lock. You'll see in the combo at the end. But the idea is you'd still then get access to this. You'd then be able to go into your Synchro play, you go into your Fusion play, which at the base minimum, even though your opponent can still access the extra deck, all of their monsters will be dragons, they'll all be shifted to defense, and their effects will all be negated. So kind of like a Baguska. Another card that you can play that I personally like to use in this version instead of playing Small World is Where Art Thou? The reason this is so good is as long as you control a level 1 monster, you get to add a level 1 monster from the deck to the hand. During the end phase of this turn, you will take 2,000 damage if you did not normal summon it, and it's not a hard once per turn. The idea is that when you're activating this card to get that extender will be your additional normal summon because Mausoleum lets you get an additional normal summon of a light level 1 tuner. So it means if I go Sage and that gets stopped, I can go Where Art Thou to get me into my Buster Whelp. If I go for a Maiden or a Master or anything like that, as long as I control those, I search them out. Another card that can really help this consistency is something like a Jester Conflict, because then it stops your opponent just going, right, get rid of that level 1, and then you can't activate Where Art Thou. I feel Small World is probably the better option, but then you need to learn the bridges and keep in mind what they do, and you'll lose a card from the hand, so it's a neg 1. Whereas the Where Art Thou just basically replaces it. It's not a neg 1, it's just a 1-for-1 kind of esque. The last consistency card is Pot of Prosperity. Just because you've got flexibility in the extra deck, sometimes you might be going second and be like, right, well, I'm not going to bust a lock, I'm actually going to go for an OTK. Or, of course, you can look at some of the flex spots that I'll show you later on where Crimson Dragon could go, and you go, right, Pot of Prosperity, get rid of those, dig for my starter or dig for my extender. And the best thing about this deck right here is because you go from like Sage and you work your way technically into a Maiden, which can then work its way into a Wishes, if your opponent stops you at any point of those paths, you'll still be able to continue to play. The biggest choke point of a deck like this right now is the Link 1 Blue Eyes, because if they stop you getting to Mausoleum, you don't get your additional normal summon, which then means you don't get to switch over to your engine of the Buster Bladers. Then, of course, 1 Call by the Grave, and then for the hand traps, I've got 2 Bestials, 1 Magnamoot and Bulldrake. Obviously, Magnamoot can also be quite helpful for you because it can search out your Buster Whelp as it is a dragon, so that's another way of getting access to that card as well. Like I said, I've tried to keep budget in mind, which is why there's no Druid Swarm, otherwise you would 100% be playing Druid Swarm. And then the rest of the hand traps is 2 Effect Veiler, 2 Nibiru, followed up by triple Ash Blossom and triple Infinite Impermanence. So all of that came in the structure deck, absolutely fine. So that's it for the entire main deck. Now moving on to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, the Buster Blader cards we are playing is the 1 Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman. So this is one you're actually going to successfully fusion summon, and this one requires Buster Blader and a Dragon type monster. It must be fusion summoned, can't be special summoned by other ways. It cannot attack directly, and it gains 1,000 attack and defense for each Dragon type monster your opponent controls or is in their graveyard. You change all Dragon type monsters your opponent controls to face up defense, and also Dragon monsters your opponent controls in their possession cannot activate their effects. If it attacks the defensive monster, you do piercing battle damage. And the way that you're going to turn all your opponent's monsters into dragons, or get even more, is off of the back of the Buster Dragon. So this one, again, it can be made, it is a level 8, which is a little bit awkward to actually hard synchro, but you're going to be getting this off of the back of the trap card. All monsters your opponent controls become dragon, and then once per turn, if you do not control Buster Blader monster, you get to target a Buster Blader monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Once per turn, during your opponent's turn, you get to target a Buster Blader monster you control, equipped it with a Destruction Sword monster from the graveyard. This is a quick effect, and I'll show you how you utilize that in the combo at the end. Then the last direct Buster Blader card we play is the Protection Whelp. So this one just requires 2 monsters, very nice and easy generic. If it is link summoned, you get to send a Destruction Sword from the card from the deck to the grave, and that's really important because that will send you your trap card or the equip that is going to allow you to lock your opponent out of the extra deck. You can special summon a Buster Blader from the hand, but obviously you don't need to worry about that, and the rest of the effects are a little bit inconsequential. The last influenced Buster Blader-esque card that we play is the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. And the reason this is like influenced by Buster Blader is because obviously this gets destroyed during the next end phase. So what you want to do is your Buster Blader Destruction Sword has the ability to unequip itself and summon itself to the board. So once you've equipped it to your fusion monster and you've locked your opponent out of their extra deck, the idea is once it comes back to your turn, you would then be able to go, cool, effective this, unequipped it, summon it. And because this is going to get destroyed in the end phase, you then just go, cool, sync these two together, go into an Abyss. You've got a 3200 a buff monster, plus the ability to target a face-up card your opponent controls and negate it. So that's where you're going to kind of work for it. There is flex spots, so if you're like, I want Crimson Dragon and just all of its targets, and this can be one that you cut. The only XYZ we play is the one Indigo. This is just personal choice. I just still really like it as a card option, but you can take this out for anything. Again, that's another space for your Crimson Dragon if you want to. For the other fusion monsters that we play, we are playing the one Tyrant. I just think there are clutch times where this would come up. And the best thing about this one is if it bows, you target any trap card in your graveyard and set it. So you can actually recycle your Buster Blader traps. If you've got the materials to successfully resolve them, but keep that in mind. Then, of course, we've got the one Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate, and then, of course, I do like to play the one Twin Burst, because there are some times where there are cards that your opponent plays that can't be destroyed by battle, and you're like, okay, cool, whatever, I'll attack it and banish it instead. But again, this is one of the prosperity targets, it's one of your flex spots, this is your Crimson Dragon, you flex it as you see. For the Link monsters, of course, we've got two Spirit Reviser Blue, just another incredibly good card that the deck received, followed up by the one Hieratic Seals. Then for the Synchros, we do play two Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon, followed up by the two targets you're going to summon off the back of the Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon, being one Blue Eyes Ultimate, and then of course the one Azure Eyes Silver Dragon. Now, in a very niche scenario, what you can do is once you have summoned out your Buster Dragon, if you're able to save a Spirit Dragon, or you make a Spirit Dragon during your turn after, so you make this during your opponent's turn, it comes back to your turn, this is going to get destroyed in the end phase, I either make a Spirit Dragon or I keep a Spirit Dragon on the board until that point. I can then activate that Spirit Dragon, tag it out, bring out an Azure Eyes. Azure Eyes will stop this being destroyed during the end phase. So if I don't feel that I can OTK or anything and I just want to lock my opponent down for another turn because I'm, degenerate, then you can do that. So that is a very niche option, but it is something you might want to consider that may come up. Of course, if you have Stardust Divine Dragon and you have Crimson Dragon, you'd definitely be playing them. Like, no brainer. But some people don't have access to those because, I think like Crimson Dragon is something like 30 quid now, which is mental. And then the Stardust Dragon is like 30 to 40 pound, which is mental. So hopefully they get a reprint soon. Anyway, that is it for the entire profile. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what happens when you use the basic Sage 1.5 card combo and then work your way into the Buster Blader combo as well, which sets you up with a lock. So I'll be back in a second. So here is the basic 1.5 card combo coming off the back of Sage Reviser Blue, but with an added twist of the Buster Blader engine. So you're going to start this off pretty standard by normal summon Sage, grab yourself a Maiden. Now obviously if they were to interact at this point, you still have the option of hard opening up a Maiden, so it's not the end of the world. But we're going to go send Maiden from hand to the grave, place your True Light, set your wishes. Again, this exact route of play, technically within reason, can be replaced just by hard and open up the wishes. You're going to activate the wishes, discard that 0.5 card, and then you're going to grab your Buster Whelp and you're going to grab your Roar. Then what you can do is you can turn your Sage into the Spirit. Keep in mind, if you chose not to add the Roar, you'd actually make a different bit of an end board. Nothing too impressive. This is like the best one to go for, but you'd go for the Trap card as probably to be a bit more defensive, but this is the ideal one to go for, just as a note. Your Spirit Reviser Blue would grab you your Mausoleum, activate Mausoleum, target the Spirit, send in Blue Eyes from deck to grave, activate Spirit, tributing it off to bring back the Blue Eyes, while your wish is in the grave. In turn, this then allows you to bring back Maiden. Now, of course, you can go into Spirit Dragon right here if you wanted to, but I'm just going to kind of keep them on the board so you can visually see what you're trying to work your way into. You don't want to go into Spirit so early. There are still loads of options to go for. So you start off by using Wishes, which will get you your Neo Blue Eyes onto the board already, which are going to work its way into the graveyard to get that protection. Then you're going to use your additional normal summon off of the back of the Mausoleum to grab you your Buster Whelp. The Buster Whelp will then grab you your Prologue of Destruction Swordsman, which is actually really important. Then what you're going to do is you're going to use the Buster Whelp and your Blue Eyes, or of course you could use Maiden and Blue Eyes, but I quite like getting the Buster Whelp off and out the way. And I'd rather have this left on the board if I did leave any tuner on the board, because then it means if they attack this and forget about the second effect, I still get advantage. So you're going to be doing this. You're going to be able to link both of those into the Protection Whelp. Protection Whelp, if it's linked summoned, you send a Destruction Sword card from the deck to the grave. I'm going to send the Destruction Sword of Memory, which is the trap card. You can send the monster if you want to, but you probably want to be a little bit more cautious about a bestial. If your opponent tries to bestial you during your turn, they might try and get rid of the maiden, which isn't the end of the world if they do. It just means you don't get a Spirit Dragon, but they might think that they're being clever and save it for during your turn so they can banish something else, like the Buster Whelp, but you could actually protect that if you do, and I'll show you how you can do that. So what you do here is you're going to activate the Roar. The Roar's going to bring back the Blue Eyes. You are now going to be Dragon Locked. You can go into Hieratic Seals if you wanted to, depending on what your opponent has on the board. This is obviously in the graveyard. But we're not going to be doing that. We're actually going to go into our Spirit Dragon just to give you that negate on the board as well. So you've got this. This is how your board currently looks. During your opponent's turn, what's going to happen is you're going to activate Prologue. Prologue will send you your Dragon Buster Destruction Sword and, of course, your Buster Blader. If you are worried about a bestial targeting your Destruction Sword, which will stop your opponent being locked out of the extra deck, you would tag this out first for your ultimate, because then it means your opponent cannot banish from your graveyard. But this is just to show you how you maintain as many negates first. You ideally want to be using the negate off of the back of your Spirit Dragon first, and then tagging it out, but wild things do happen. So you're going to be doing that. You're then going to be going into your Buster Dragon. Once that's now resolved, what you can do is you can banish from the graveyard the Destruction Sword of Memory, which will let you fusion summon into a Buster Blader using materials from the graveyard. So you use a Buster Blader and then use any dragon. So obviously you can use Blue Eyes. Honestly, you probably wouldn't do that. Neo is another option, but the ones you're probably going to want to look at is either your Buster Whelp or, of course, your Spirit Advisor Blue. So either of those two are free dragon fodder. So you get rid of those, you then get your Buster Blade, the Destruction Swordsman. Keep in mind, if you do all this as early as possible, you're trying to play around talents. And then what you can do here is you go Buster Dragon during your opponent's turn, target your Buster Blader, and equip it with your Buster Blader Destruction Sword, which now means, as this currently stands, all of your opponent's monsters are dragon, they're all shifted to defense, they can't activate their effects, and they can't access the extra deck, which is just degenerate and disgusting. Then you've still got the negate if they try to move anything in the graveyard. They can't summon two monsters at the same time. You're then going to be able to go, cool, Spirit, tag it out, get you your Blue Eyes Ultimate. Blue Eyes Ultimate then has a negate on the board. Of course, it would get destroyed during the end phase, but then it'll float back to a monster. So that's option number one. Option number one, once you've done all of that, is you can actually tag your Spirit Dragon out and get you into your Azure Eyes, which then Azure Eyes will trigger to protect this, but ideally that's not the biggest issue because this will still get destroyed during the end phase of the next turn anyway. You'd be better off saving the Spirit, but if you're like, I want Azure Eyes to come back to my turn, and I'll show you how you play this during your turn. It comes back to your turn, you draw one random card per turn. During the standby phase, your Blue Eyes, Azure Eyes will bring back a Blue Eyes White Dragon. Obviously, keep in mind you could have brought back a card during your opponent's turn with True Light, or you can set another one for True Light. That's just going to give you a bit more advantage, but I'm just showing you what you've got through this board here. This will, of course, will trigger Maiden to come back from the graveyard as well. And if that wasn't enough, you now have the ability to synchro these off if you need to. You can link them off, whatever. Clear some space up is what I'm trying to tell you. So let's say we synchro these into a second Spirit Dragon. Now what you can do is you can use the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword to summon itself. You can now synchro these two together because this is going to get destroyed during the end phase. This will now allow you to go into an Abyss Dragon. So you've now got the Abyss Dragon negate. This can't attack directly, so they've either got a monster on the board or they don't. And if they don't, you're just going to go, cool, 25, 32, 25. So that's 8-2 on the board already. If they do, you attack with this first, does piercing damage, and then you go and attack and attack and attack for game. And you still haven't even used True Light, so you could do True Light again, bring back a Blue Eyes, and kind of push further from there. You've got loads of different options. Keep in mind, in an ideal scenario, that Spirit Dragon could have very easily become a Crimson Dragon later on down the line, but it really is up to you. Like, I suppose if you do go down Crimson Dragon route, you could play other level 8 dragons if you wanted to as well, and kind of spawn them out off the back of the Buster Dragon once you make it. So that is another avenue you can explore if you do have access to Crimson Dragon. But I wanted to make this build as accessible as possible to as many people as possible, and then you adapt it as you see fit in accordance to what you have access to. So if you've got Crimson Dragon, I've told you what you can put into it, swap it around, adapt it yourself. If you don't have Crimson Dragon, you don't need to be like, oh, I can't afford Crimson Dragon, everyone's playing Crimson Dragon, I'm not going to bother. Like, the deck is very versatile, very adaptable, and yeah, if you checked out the channel enough, you will see how many different variants I've already posted up on this. I've done Invoked, which I think is a really kind of cool budget option alternative. Primite is on the way, just because it's the highest ceiling in my opinion. Then, of course, we've got the Buster Blader version I've just shown you. I've shown you a budget version, a pure version, ISK, Synchro version. You've got loads of different options. It's crazy. Anyway, hope this has given you everything you need, combo, breakdown, as much detail as possible. If you do have any questions at all, by all means, please put in the comments down below. I will always be more than happy to answer them for you. But for now, as always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.